Welcome everybody from my side as well. We have a very exciting topic for today again, with one amazing founder. We will speak about what it takes to build a great product that users love, have a fast and agile product development process in place, designing for the so-called human experience, and trying to actually get a team in place that can execute on a very, very tight timeline and to produce these kind of amazing products. And I have an amazing guest here for tonight, David Okuniev. I pronounce this correctly? Okuniev, who's the founder of Typeform, a product that many of you guys have probably already used in the past. It's a software as a service company based in Barcelona. It has raised money from some of the leading VCs in the world, Berlin-based Point9 and also London-based e.Ventures. And certainly one of the companies that have inspired many, many product teams around the world. And before we came here, David visited me in my office and we had a little bit of a chat, and I was really blown away by his story of like being born in Belgium and then moving to Colombia and then coming to Barcelona in the end and building Typeform from an agency business that he had before. And I'm sure that you will be as excited as I was to learn a little bit more about David tonight. So welcome and thank you for being here.
Thank you.
David, Kevin Hale from Wufu said in the YC How to Start a Startup class, marketing and sales is the tax you pay for not having a remarkable product. To kick it off, I would love to get your perspective on what makes a great product.
To start off with, I can relate to what Kevin says, because Typeform is a story of actually scaling without any marketing and sales. In fact, our growth engine has just been people creating typeforms, sending it out to their audiences, and their audiences create typeforms and so forth. So I really believe in building a product that does not rely on marketing and sales for that traction, because you can't really polish a turd, right? I don't know if you know that word. A turd is a shit. But you can use marketing to really amplify your product, and I think we used it to great effect. And also, at some point, you need to have sales in order to reach kind of darker areas of the market. So maybe Jim Smith, who's in Milwaukee, who's in a steel conglomerate, someone might have to get on the phone to him to actually convince him to get onto the product. So anyway, what makes a great product is that it helps people make progress, right? I think that's the fundamental thing that a product is for. And a good product, a software product, solves a problem in your life in an easy way that you can understand, and it doesn't fail on you. Great products, however, have this difference. They go beyond the utility and they create an emotional relationship with the customer, with the user, so that they can't live without them. So I think great products do this through a combination of innovative branding, but as well, they deliberately put emotional markers all over the product, so they create that strong connection.
How do you first come up with this? So how do you find out what people want, and how do you find out what makes these products emotional enough to share them? Did you coin this concept of human experience, or so you're the inventor of human experience, and you said that one should think about this differently as compared to user experience. So how do you cater along that, and how do you come up with this human experience concept of knowing the emotional and empathic kind of involvement of a user with your product?
So human experience is a term we coined at Typeform, and trying to think that this is a human being behind your product, not just the user. So it's thinking beyond the user experience and consider what happens outside of that. So for example, if I was going to design or build a new phone for a user, then I would build a smartphone. But if I was building it for a human, maybe I'd try something else. And I don't know if you've heard of a product called Lightphone. It's an e-ink phone which has very limited functionality. You can phone on it, you can send SMSs, you can set an alarm, you can order a cab. And I've ordered this phone because it actually is going to improve my life, because I realize I even go to the bathroom with my phone, and I think we all suffer from this, that we fill our times with just looking at screens. So I think human experience as discipline kind of takes that into account. And I think we're entering into an era where you see more and more products that think about this. If you're a cynic, you might say HX is something redundant. It's just like UX. It's what UX should be done. But The point here is to overemphasize the kind of human aspect of this.
And is there anything that in particular you can recommend to founders in this room, how to make products more human and more emotional? So is there a particular set of things that you can replicate and help people and recommend them to do?
So we came up with these three keywords: empathy, curiosity, and really, really caring. So empathy is all about, putting yourself in the shoes of the user and making their reality your own reality. And when you have that mindset, you can design accordingly. Curiosity, you really have to have like an experimental mindset and take risks. You have to be adventurous. Typeform was based on that. We challenged the standard of HTML forms, which was something that was just a given. And giving a damn. That's all about obsessively caring about helping the user make progress, because that's, at the end of the day, that's what products are there for. It's to help people make progress. So I think as a best practice, I think you should hire microcopy writers. We have one at Typeform. We're about to hire another one. They may be the interface designers of the future. In the future, we're going to rely much less on kind of boxes and squares and pages. Everything might be in our field of view, and voice interaction might be much more of a permanent thing, and microcopy writers will be there. There's also things that risk actually reducing the emotional connection with your customers if you don't look after those details in the small UI. So at Typeform, I'm really on the case with really small details. I really care about them. When I see a text that's not properly aligned inside a button, it bothers me. And you might think it's just one small detail, but if you don't look after many, many small details, those kind of really build up into a bigger picture. And I always like to use the origami example. So if you take two people and instruct them to build an origami crane, a crane is a type of bird, it's a typical origami pattern to create, and you tell the first person, make every fold perfect, and then the second person you say, well, you can make maybe 3 or 4 folds not so perfect. And you take those two cranes and put them in front of a third person, and I guarantee you they will be able to clearly detect the difference between those two cranes. Maybe something to touch upon. I came across this thing the other day called product channel fit. I don't know if you've heard of it. Yeah. So this guy, Brian Balfour, is ex-VP of growth at HubSpot, and he says that 70% of high-growth companies get their acquisition from a single channel. So think, Dropbox, Slack, virality. Same thing for Typeform. Yelp, Pinterest.
Which is a nice channel to have.
Yeah, it's good, because you don't have to do much work. Yelp, Pinterest, SEO, and Marketo, and companies like Zenefits, it's all about sales. And we often hear about people talking about we need a balanced portfolio so that without minimizing risk and we can spread risk across. But, it's really hard to build a product that actually can work in multiple channels. So I think, coming to that reality and accepting that just the way things are allows you to just double down on what works and have focus.
Let's speak a little bit about your team and the way how you've built your product organization. So what kind of profiles do you hire and are you looking for Typeform? What makes people good product managers?
Yeah. Once you start scaling, you'll be able to attract senior designers and engineers and really good product people so you can create really good teams. And in terms of the traits that you're looking for, we always look for people with humility, because people with humility, they're much more open to learn, and they make for better cohesion in teams. We look for people that are really resourceful as well, that that are smart, that kind of
How do you test that?
Well, asking the right questions. You can feel it as well. I don't know the set of questions that we ask for that, but we want people that are self-starters, entrepreneurial. We also want people that are adventurous. So by adventurous means you're not scared to fail. And obviously people that are passionate about helping customers.
So at one point, I read that designers are designing because of their creative genes and creativity. So how do you think about data versus qualitative product building and product management?
I'm not a huge data guy. Don't say I don't believe in it, but it's not something that piques my interest. In fact, I'm not a big process person at all. But I think you need both. They're complementary. So just quantitative data, what it does is identify problems. So you see patterns, and qualitative data, you need it as well to be able to identify like what is the solution. For example, qualitative data would be when we design a new feature, we make prototypes and we put it in front of users and we interview them and we get qualitative data so we can change the design. That's really, really useful. But for example, in growth, where we're trying to find out where people are dropping off the funnel, we use qualitative data to like just identify the patterns, essentially. Anyway, that said, because I'm not such a data person, I would say that if you make every single decision by data, you're going to go slower. So I think you need to be data informed as opposed to data driven. If every decision is just data driven, then you have to do stuff from the guts. And I think I like to see like product managers have that, have guts as well. Like
intuition.
Use data, intuition, but sometimes you just have to make decisions. And if you fail, fail fast, that's okay.
It makes a lot of fun. So one last question is one of your best practices and tips towards the founders in this room in terms of building a culture, hiring and processes. And even though you said you're not a big fan of processes, but what is it what you've learned over the last years here?
On culture, I've learned that the culture that you set out to put out is not going to be the same as the culture that you have when you scale beyond 150 people. So, we were pretty naive. We thought, let's build a very human company, and I think we achieved that. But at some point, you have to get a bit more serious about the operation and how things work. So. It works. What works really well at 30 people, where everyone is like buddy, like doesn't work as well when you're 150 people. So people have different expectations. There's this. When you get to 150 employees, there's this funny thing that happens where the trust kind of breaks down a little bit. And actually, it's documented that 150 people, social groups start to change. It's called the Dunbar theory. So expect culture change. So go with your best intentions, like in the early days, but expect that things will change, and it's going to be a hard journey because some people will also leave the company because it's not the same company that it was, etc. But
also for founders, like we have met many founders that just love building companies in the early days, and then with a B round or C round, and it's usually this number, 100 to 150 people, and the first time you come you want to get a coffee and you realize there's something in the kitchen who you don't know, and he's just joined and it's your company.
It changes. Yeah. You retain some things, but some things definitely change and it's not the same thing. So that's on culture. On hiring, I think hiring senior people early on is very beneficial because when you have a good mix of seniors and less experienced people, the less experienced people learn much faster.
That's a tough one though, right? Like getting the right experienced people on board. Like I've seen many companies that had people with 20 years of industry experience, and you always thought that they must have timeless wisdom with them coming, but it was outdated bias instead. So
so you need to hire the right senior people, right? If that's the case. And then finally, you asked about process. Don't get crazy with process. Create structures that make sense. Don't be religious about it. Otherwise, what happens is that people in management positions spend more time protecting processes than actually focusing on the important things. And the important things is making users love your product over and over again.
Yeah. Cool. Great. Thank you very much, everyone, for coming here today. This from scratch format is only so great because you guys are so interested in it. So thank you very much for that.